You know, my dad was a alcoholic. He
Mm-hmm.
got into recovery when I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember, I have some small memories of what that was like, going to the recovery center as a kid
Yeah.
and then talking about alcoholism. And I remember that really made me mad because that was my Superman. And I didn't know anything about mental health. Mental health just wasn't something that we talked about.
Right.
It wasn't even something that you really acknowledged. He was tired of the way lithium made him feel, you know, and tired of the anger that it caused and his inability, because it did affect his relationships with that stuff. And in fact, big time with me, you know. Dad and I didn't have a great relationship towards the end of his life, but you know, basically, I guess 6 months later, after he got off his medication, he decided to take his life. And he had spoken to my mother about it, but you know, again, when no one around you has ever died by suicide, when someone talks about suicide, you don't think they'd actually do it. We didn't know anything about any of this. I didn't know how he felt. I didn't know that this was the kind of battle he was facing. And I was obviously mad at the kind of the religious community of promoting this idea that you don't need medication or medical help, that God will take care of it, you know. And I mean, I'm a very spiritual person, and I've seen many miracles in my time. But the idea of not doing everything you can,
Right.
Obviously, that's how I lost my father. And so we moved back to Texas after that, and we didn't know how to process this. I started a band then. I got real heavy into drugs and alcohol for about the next 10 years. So I'm on tour, numbing the pain. My brother begins to he got really heavily involved in drugs and alcohol. And, you know, 4 years later, he takes his own life in Corpus Christi. And so, you know, I can't believe this is happening again. We still didn't know much about mental health. You know, we just thought this was a thing that was terrible. We don't talk about it. And then now Dylan, now my brother. And so I drank more. I got arrested more. I poured myself more into the band. And eventually I had to face it all. It all came to a head. So I was able to start therapy. I was going to AA. And at first I would learn how they sign the AA cards, and I'd deliver it to my probation officer.
So you really were still...
Yeah. I wasn't in, and some things happened to me that just kind of forced me in. I had to buy into it because I didn't want to be like my dad. I didn't want to be an addict, you know. And sorry, I just remember that feeling like I'm not that guy. And I had to face that this wasn't about strength and weakness, that I had to believe, I had to see this for what it was, that these were medical, psychological issues that had answers. That you know, I'm still an addict, but man, I have a great life.
Right.
I may still be slightly bipolar, but I've got great relationships, and I have 2 kids, and it's just it's manageable, and I have the community and help that I need for me, and I feel fortunate.
Are there some things that you recommend to help them start establishing that? I mean, as a musician, you were able to go to Sims, but there's obviously other nonprofits where you can go and, you know, find the help you need if you can't afford it. So are there just ways that you can help people understand to create a community to be supportive so they don't feel so alone?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think one of the first things is is being willing to be vulnerable and to talk about what you're struggling through. You know, you'd be surprised at how people, it's not a form of weakness to talk about that. It's a form of strength. I think the other thing is, you know, if you feel like you may have some sort of mental health issue, there's a plethora of information now, and a wealth of resources in the closest metropolitan area that you live in, you know, and you know, and we have the internet, so there is an organization somewhere near you that can help. You know, if you're experiencing depression or anxiety or some disorder, you may not even know what it is. You know, a lot of times just starting with a therapist and saying, this is what I'm feeling, what's going on? That step is huge, because you are now looking and you're letting go of fear and looking at bettering yourself or finding solutions to things that you are struggling with.
That's right.
And that's, to me, the first step is just asking for the help.
So, do you mind leading us on your journey after sobriety and what that looked like for you?
Yeah. Well, for starters, it got a lot cheaper. Lawyers and new jobs and were expensive. But my whole entire life changed. I was able to begin grieving about my brother and my father, and that got manageable. I could wake up without, you know, the pain doesn't go away, but it gets manageable. And there's, you know, I would say just recently, in the last, I don't know, the last 10 years, I've been really starting experiencing more joy, more happiness, you know, and it takes time. You know, all of these things take time, and that's why we love to numb the pain, because we don't want it to take the time that it takes. But yeah, I have had a lot of help to crawl my way out of the hole that I was in. And now I have tools to deal with when I am watching 8 hours of Netflix. I know what's happening. And I give myself a little bit of grace. And when I am feeling alone, I know that I can call somebody. When I need to grieve and cry about something, I can grieve and cry about it instead of run from it. And those are tools that I had to be taught. They weren't things that I naturally understood. You know. So that was a lot of reaching out and trying to find the right people to help me, you know, and that journey, that exploration, I think, has made me a person that I do like. And, you know, sometimes our greatest seeming weaknesses can end up being some of our greatest strengths.
Casey, thank you for sharing your time and for having this meal with me. I could just appreciate you and your story, and thank you for sharing it and being vulnerable with our community of listeners, because I know that, you know, we'll be able to help. You've helped somebody that's listening.
My pleasure. Yeah, and thank you guys for listening. And just, yeah, it's we all have our journey that we're on.
We
so
do.
Yeah, it's great hanging out with you and eating some good food.
Oh, thank you. Please go to MinTV and look below for any resources that you may need, and just know that you're not alone and there's a lot of support out there. Thank you again for watching.